Today I'm showing you step by step how to create the ultimate pistachio tarts. I'll walk you through my entire cake design and recipe development process for creating the most irresistible pistachio tarts with no less than 7 layers of pistachio. My name is Louise and I'm a self-taught cake artist and recipe developer. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create the most outstanding pistachio tart. This truly is the ultimate pistachio dessert, as the tart has 7 layers. Yes, you heard right, 7 layers of pistachio. They're really packed with so much pure pistachio paste to give the most prominent flavor, and believe me when I say that they really do taste absolutely out of this world. I'm going to show you the process behind developing this cake recipe, my thoughts behind creating the ultimate pistachio tart, and how I made a tart recipe with no less than 7 layers of pistachio. And if you want to bake the tarts at home, you can find the full recipe here on my website, which you can access through a subscription. To make these tarts, I'm also going to show you how to master the following techniques: a moist pistachio joconde, a crunchy pistachio crunch layer, a creamy pistachio and vanilla milk jam, a smooth pistachio whipped ganache, a crunchy pistachio praliné, and a velvety pistachio cremeux. I'm going to show you how to make the following layers: Pâte Sablée tart dough, Pistachio Joconde, pistachio milk brush, pistachio crunch layer, pistachio and vanilla milk jam, pistachio whipped ganache, pistachio praliné, pistachio cremeux, and chocolate decoration. If you want to learn more about how to make elegant, layered, and delicious entremet cakes, you can now check out my online course, Master Entremet Cakes at Home, where I show you how to create professional quality cakes from start to finish, right from your own kitchen. Inside the course, I teach you my 5-step formula that I use for all my cakes: cake base, crunch, creamy element, mousse, and decoration. You'll also learn how to make 5 of my signature entremet cakes, different glazing techniques, discover recipe development and cake design, and also receive PDF troubleshooting guides and Excel recipe course material, giving you everything you need to start creating your own cakes at home. All right, let's get started. To make these pistachio tarts, I'm starting out by making my favorite pâte sablée dough. This is what's gonna encase our tarts and give that crisp and tender crumb texture to the cakes. I make the pâte sablée by first mixing all-purpose flour, almond flour, icing sugar, and salt before I add grated cold butter. I mix the butter with the dry ingredients until the dough has a sand-like texture and there's no big pieces of butter left. Then I briefly, and only briefly, collect the dough with the egg, as we don't want to over-knead the dough. We then roll out the dough between 2 pieces of baking paper and let it set in the fridge for 2 hours. I cut out tart bases with an 8 cm diameter tart ring and line the sides with the dough. Now we can cut off the dough excess and use a fork to make a few holes to prevent the tart bottoms from rising during baking. Lastly, I bake the cakes for 12 to 14 minutes at 175 degrees until very golden to get a crispy and caramelized surface. Then the tarts need to cool off while I'm preparing the next layer. To add another structured texture and base to the cake, I was debating whether to make a frangipane or joconde cake. I also knew that I wanted to add several more soft and creamy layers, so to add a more firm layer that at the same time also is moist and full of pistachio flavor, I decided to make a pistachio joconde cake. I here start out by making pistachio flour by blending pistachios into a finer flour. I then mix it with eggs and sugar and whisk it to a fluffy consistency. In another bowl, I'm whisking egg whites and sugar to a stiff meringue with hard peaks before gently folding the meringue into the pistachio mixture. Lastly, I stir in flour and also melted butter. I pour the cake batter onto a baking tray and bake the cake for 6 to 10 minutes at 210 degrees in the oven until it's slightly golden. Once the cake has cooled off, I cut out 6 cake bases with a 7 cm cake cutter so they will fit into the tarts. A Joconde is also great at absorbing liquid without becoming soggy, so I'm here making a pistachio milk brush. To make it, I'm heating milk and pure pistachio paste almost to a boil and let it cool off. Throughout these tarts, you'll see that I use 100% pure pistachio paste in many of the elements, as this just gives the most pure pistachio flavor. I then gently brush the Joconde cake with the pistachio milk. I then place each of the cakes in the tarts with the non-brushed side facing downwards towards the tart bottom, as the tarts otherwise will become soggy. I level the surface a bit with a spoon and put the tarts back in the fridge while preparing the next layer. I here wanted to make the ultimate pistachio crunch layer, which is why this crunch layer is mainly based on Pistachio Praliné and gelatin, because this gives the most wonderful crunch that fits perfectly with the other textures in the cake. I here start out by melting sugar to a golden caramel and stirring in pistachio nuts to cover them with the caramelized sugar. After the nuts have cooled off, I blend them to a smooth pistachio nut paste praliné. I mix the praliné with melted cocoa butter, which will help set the crunch so it's more firm than soft, and after that gelatin and sea salt. I fill 2 to 3 teaspoons of crunch in each of the tarts and level the surface with a spoon so we can get a clean cake cut. I then put the tarts back in the fridge while the crunch needs to set before the next layer can be added. For the creamy element, I was originally considering making a pistachio ganache, yet I wanted to add something a bit different in terms of texture and flavor profile, which is why I decided to make a pistachio vanilla milk jam. A milk jam is basically condensed milk, sugar and a flavor component that's heated until it thickens and caramelizes into a smooth spread. Now we first cut the vanilla bean and scrape out the seeds. The next step is to heat condensed milk, sugar, heavy cream, pure pistachio paste and vanilla seeds to a simmer and cook until it thickens and gets a consistency like a jam. Once it has a jam-like thickness, I strain the milk jam and put it in the fridge where it needs to cool off. I then take the milk jam out of the fridge and let it simmer to room temperature, as this will make it easier to spread it onto the tarts. I put the pistachio milk jam in a piping bag and fill the tarts fully. I here make sure to level the surface of the tarts with a small palette knife before putting the tarts back in the fridge. The main decorative element of these tarts is a pistachio whipped ganache, because I wanted the cakes to look appetizing and really show that this is a pistachio tart. I therefore made a whipped ganache with lots of pure pistachio paste to give the most amazing flavor while still making a staple ganache that's perfect for piping. I make the whipped ganache by first putting chopped white chocolate and pistachio paste in a jug. I then heat heavy cream almost to a boil, add soaked gelatin before pouring it over the chopped white chocolate and pistachio paste. After it's set for around 1 minute, I hand blend to combine, then add cold heavy cream and blend again. I pour the cream in a bowl, cover the surface with cling film, and put the cream in the fridge overnight before we can whip it up to decorate the tarts the next day. When I'm saying that this is the ultimate pistachio tart, I of course had to include a pistachio praliné. A praliné is the best way to get the most prominent nut flavor, and then it also adds both a smooth and crunchy texture to the tarts. Like the praliné in the crunch layer, I'm here making the praliné by first melting sugar to a golden caramel and stirring in pistachio nuts to cover them with the caramelized sugar. After the nuts have cooled off, I blend them to a smooth pistachio nut paste praliné, while you see how the nuts first turn into a fine powder, then a dense paste, and finally to a smooth paste. I put the praliné in a piping bag with a filling tip, which we'll use to fill the tarts once we're ready to assemble the tarts. Besides the pistachio whipped ganache, I also wanted to add a secondary visual creamy element, a pistachio cremeux. The cremeux adds the most velvety texture that just melts on the tongue, and it has a beautiful shiny surface, which makes it great to use as a decorative element that looks appetizing and also visually stunning. To make a cremeux requires prepping a few elements. First, I melt white chocolate and pure pistachio paste. I briefly mix egg yolks and sugar in a bowl and put it aside. Then I'm heating heavy cream almost to a boil. Pour the hot cream over the egg/sugar mixture while whisking briefly to combine, and pour the mixture back in the pot where the cream needs to cook to exactly 83 degrees. Reaching this exact temperature is important to achieve a successful tempering of the cremeux. Once it's 83 degrees, I strain the cream, add soaked gelatin, and pour it over the melted chocolate and pistachio paste while stirring in the middle with a spatula until it becomes glossy. Lastly, I add sea salt for a bit of flavor contrast and hand blend the cremeux to get it fully smooth. We here pour the cremeux in a plastic box where it needs to set in the fridge until assembling the tarts. Now that we have prepped all the decorative elements, we are ready to assemble the tarts. I first whip up the set whipped ganache to medium peaks, put it in a piping bag with a large star tip, and pipe a generous layer on top of each tart, where I focus on piping the cream in a tall pattern to add some height and dimension to the tarts. Now we can fill the middle with a rich layer of pistachio praliné, so when you take a bite, you'll bite right into the pistachio praliné and immediately taste that pure pistachio flavor. For the cremeux, I take it out of the fridge and immediately scoop 6 balls that I afterwards roll into small round balls by using the hands. I place 1 cremeux ball on top of each tart, as this will add some more dimension and give the tarts a more elevated look. Lastly, I decorate the tarts with different leaves and flowers, and finally chocolate straws that I dyed in the same color as the cremeux. And here we have the final tarts that truly is the ultimate pistachio tarts. With 7 layers of pistachio, I've put as much pistachio as I could into these tarts, and the final flavor is simply outstanding. I love all my cakes, but this one is definitely in top 5. Like, it tastes absolutely out of this world. It has such a pure, prominent flavor, and at the same time, so many different textures of pistachios. So to me, that really is just like the perfect pistachio dessert. I hope you get the chance to make these amazing pistachio tarts at home. And if you like my videos, make sure to subscribe. You can also check out my Entremet cake playlist here. See you in the next video.